Today is May 7th edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We were Central Illinois agriculture sources for the Midwest alongside in Central Illinois. We were glad you're here. I visited Merrill Crowley from Ag Trader in Wautska, Illinois on soybean futures. This markets are trading up and down for last week. Merrill that he thinks about the demand is lower than previously weeks for delivery contract with Brazilian's production and weather delay in the Midwest. Top of that is more important for this planting season. I've been having a conversation about Safegreen program with people who are concerned about it or some other people are happy for it. It's either way as mixed feelings about it. We're going to keep our eyes on it. Let's go with our conversation with Chad Hart from Iowa State University Extension for today's program. We were bringing it up with him about the SAF and E15 Farm Bill economy. We were going to talk about it with Chad. Also, we will talk about commodities markets with Jeff French from American Ag in Northwest Iowa. This is your agricultural news on Back Roads of Illinois. Ethanol industry and SAF industry sued by the European Union. The European Union ban on SAF. The ethanol industry has been a bad situation for this issue of Safegreen program. The Farm Bill might be interested about the Republican ideas for the Farm Bill. Rank member G.T. Thomas is having opportunity to get done with the Democrats in the House because Senator Stabenow on the CPR. She said that she had a problem with CPR program by $1 billion for NRCS. Finally, Illinois farmers are planting corn today, but this week is having some storms for this week. However, this week is going to pretty bearish today's market. Well, this is your agricultural news and information on Back Roads of Illinois. This time is for your agricultural commodity markets update minute on Back Roads of Illinois. Corn futures finished in up 8 to 9 cents for today's close. Soybean futures finished in up 7 to 9 cents. Wheat futures finished in up 2 to 4 cents. Now that we were going to talk about the livestock market for today. Live cattle finished in down 7 to 2 cents. Feeder cattle finished in down 2 to 3 cents. Lean hogs finished in down 3 to 4 cents. This is your agricultural commodity markets update from Chicago. We were coming back with Chad Hart and second segment with Jeff French from American Ag on Back Roads of Illinois. Stay tuned. Back to join our guest with Chad Hart from Iowa State University Extension in Ames, Iowa. How are things in central Iowa for this planting season?
They're good, but they are a bit wet here as well. We have benefited from the rains that have come in, and we needed them given the drought conditions. But it also has now delayed planting beyond a little of what farmers would like.
Let's start with our conversation about the GREET program by this administration in Washington, D.C. for last week. Some people who do like it or not. Could you explain to our listeners about these particular issue? What is your takes on the GREET program?
Well, this is all related to the push to decarbonize, especially transportation fuels. And the announcement last week was specifically about how this GREET model would be utilized to assess agricultural practices to meet biofuel guidelines, especially for sustainable aviation fuel. Those that were happy about this were happy because they saw a few pathways for agricultural products to qualify for those tax credits available for biofuels. On the other hand, those that were unhappy saw that there were limitations as to how ag could participate. And I think that's something that will evolve over time. This GREET program that you mentioned, Cesar, does get updated periodically. And as it does, it's likely we will see more agricultural practices benefit from those changes and be able to participate more fully in biofuel programs in the future.
They were in a regenerative agricultural and cover crop who were happy, right?
That is correct. What they found was for corn and corn-based ethanol to apply for these higher biofuel tax credits, that the corn would need to be produced under production practices of having a cover crop, being in no-till, no-tillage production, and also benefiting from at least some sort of nitrogen um, either efficiency or timing delay program to reduce the carbon footprint of the corn production.
How do you see impacting the farmland's value by the acreage dilemma in corn and beans prices? I have your graph on my screen.
Yep. So what we've been seeing in terms of land values, especially over the last 3 to 6 months, has been a definite slowdown in the growth of those land values over time. The first graphic here shows the data from the Chicago Federal Reserve, and they look at land values across the state of Iowa, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, Michigan, and northern Indiana. And what they found were, like I say, slowing down of the growth as we look there. For example, in the state of Iowa, if we look over the past year, the idea is actually they show land values declining by 1%. And if we look at just the last 3 months, in this case, October to January of 2024, they show a 2% decline. Now, Iowa's declining, but the other states are still growing, but growing more slowly. For example, in Illinois, year over year is up 4%, but just the last quarter is only up 1%. So that's a definite slowdown from what we were experiencing throughout 2021 and 2022. If we go specifically to Iowa, which is in the next graphic, that shows the Realtors Land Institute, who has estimated they're looking at land values from March of 2024. And what they find is something very similar. In fact, a little more deepening of the drop in land values here in Iowa, but it's still a relatively minor drop here. Across the entire state, on average, about 3.8% decline in land values. This makes sense given the reductions we have seen in corn and soybean prices over the last year and a half. But it's also still reflecting that we've seen tremendous gains in land values, especially since the COVID crisis, where here in Iowa, in the year 2021, we gained 29% in terms of land values. In 2022, it was up 17%. So to see a 3 to 4% decline here still says that we've seen tremendous growth over the last 2 to 3 years.
What is the forecast for the farmland's value in central Iowa and the Midwest?
Well, given what we're seeing in these most recent values, there is an expectation that we could see continued a small pullback in land values, not only here within Iowa, but across the Midwest. Again, linked to the lower corn and soybean prices that we're capturing. But as we look beyond, say, the next 12 months, there is, let's call it optimism, that we could see these land values stabilize and then want to start to slowly grow, sort of in combination with the expectation of better corn and soybean prices as we look out towards 2025 and 2026.
What is your sources for the Farm Bill and SNAP program from your responses, Chad?
Well, as we look at the Farm Bill, of course, Congress is slowly working on putting together the 2024 Farm Bill. We have seen both the House and the Senate lay out at least initial language to indicate what they would like to see within a Farm Bill. And what is nice is that we do see some similarities. Both the House and Senate want to increase the effective reference prices for corn and soybeans across the Midwest. Both the House and Senate want to support crop insurance more deeply as we go forward, but there are definitely divisions when it comes to how they're going to fund that and where that funding might come from. And as you mentioned, with SNAP benefits there, one of the main targets for additional funding is the nutrition title and those nutrition programs as they add up to 75 to 80% of the overall budget within a farm bill. So, at least we've made that first step where we do have some definite language to respond to, but we're still a long ways away from finalizing this farm bill for the next 5 to 7 years.
Yes, we hope that the Farm Bill get passed, especially in the CPR.
We definitely hope it gets passed this year. If not, we're probably looking at an extension of the current farm bill, just as we just actually did at the end of last year. When you think about the timing of the farm bill, we should have had a new one in 2023. Congress could not agree to that, so they extended the old one, and we're still living under that one today, but hopefully we'll have a new one by the end of this year.
Do you have any final thoughts on the safe and farmland's value, the Farm Bill?
Well, as I mentioned, in this case, with the farm bill, we're hopeful. I must admit, I'm more of a pessimist there. So I'm expecting that we may end up going into 2025 and passing a farm bill in a non-presidential election year. But at least we still have the firm footing of the current farm bill structure supporting agriculture. And when we look at that, having that farm bill in place in combination with hopefully stabilizing prices for our commodities, that is also helping stabilize that land market. So we've been through a bit of a downturn here over the past 18 months within the ag economy, but it looks like things are beginning to try to turn around and to start pointing their way positive again as we move forward.
Thanks, Chad.
But thank you, Cesar. It was my pleasure to be with you today.
This is Chad Hart from Iowa State University Extension and Ames, Iowa. We were coming back with Jeff French. This is Chad Hart from Iowa State University Extension and Ames, Iowa. We were coming back with Jeff French. How are things in Wiota, Jeff?
Well, Caesar, right now, currently, we're a little wet. I think in the last 10 days, we've had anywhere from 3.5 to 4 inches of rain. We got probably about 40% of the corn in, a little bit of the beans. But then it just, it got wet and cool. This week we are warming up again, but we are forecasted tonight to have some pretty good storms, not nearly as heavy as some people down to the south of us, but they're talking another inch and a half. So I'm not going to really get too mad about rain, but boy, it's kind of coming at the wrong time. Thankfully, though, it's only May 6th, so there's still plenty of time ahead of us.
Kicking off with the planting season and the weather in central Iowa and the Midwest, could you tell our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, so it got off to a good start there. Obviously, we were very dry. As of last week, we got about 30% of the corn nationally planted. Iowa and Illinois were a little bit above that, but they are expecting, obviously, planting to slow down this last week. I just saw the average estimates. They're looking for corn plantings nationally at 38%. In bean plantings at 27% as of yesterday. So, we got off to a very good quick start, but obviously with the rain and cool temperatures, we're going to be back to probably closer to the 5-year average. So, some guys will take this rain. I mean, right now we're plenty saturated. The thing with the tractors and planters, the size of them this day, when these guys do get rolling, they can roll awfully quick, and 24 hours a day with all the GPS guidance. So yes, we are slowing down here right now, but if we can miss some of this rain here scheduled this week, I think we could be back in the field by maybe Wednesday or Thursday. But if we do get this rain tonight, it will definitely delay us till probably next week early. But they are starting to show some warmer temperatures, which would be excellent and speed up the drying process, Cesar.
About these issues, how does affected the ethanol markets?
Well, the ethanol has been, the demand has been pretty good. Now, historically, you do see crude prices typically top out in May. They rally from the winter lows into right before summer. Summer obviously is the highest driving season, and then also with the wars in the Middle East, that market is going to be very sensitive. But we got up there in that $85 level, really couldn't bust through there. Now we are back to $78 on the crude oil. But again, we haven't been much below 70 in the last 2 years. So if you get anywhere down in that $70 area, and look at diesel prices have come down right here. I mean, we're recommending booking some of your summer needs here before going into the summer growing season.
How about the West Texas?
Well, they are slated to get potentially the white combine coming through, and that's why you saw the hard red wheat market. It was down 25 cents overnight. It snapped back and rallied 50 cents off the lows here today because there is potential for a lot of hail here tonight, as well as heavy rains, and that is what that crop does not need. I mean, we were initially lower because over the weekend, Western Kansas did receive a very good rain, and they've been needing the rain. They've been awfully dry. But now with the forecast for potential the hail, you've just seen short covering come into these rallies. And in the last 3 to 4 days, I mean, just look at beans. I mean, beans are up 90 cents. Corn's up 30 cents. And the wheat's up better than about 60 cents in the last 4 days. So when the funds say, get me out, and they are buying back their short positions, the market can be volatile and it can be sharp, and we've gone straight up here. So good to see, but it's also prices now. We're making 3 to 4 month, 5 month highs. The wheat made a new high for the year. This is prices now that you need to start to be proactive on protecting.
The current market says voltage. Are we seek a rally or something like that? The prices are going to be in lower.
Well, I think we're obviously on a sharp rally right now, Cesar, and it's kind of caught everybody flat-footed. Number one, southern Brazil and Argentina are getting biblical rains, 10, 12, 14-inch rains, which is flooding a lot of beans that are trying to be harvested. So that got them worried. And then in the Midwest, we've got some rain here. Obviously, that's slowed us down. I'm not too worried quite yet. I think if you get into that third week of May and we continue to be wet, yes, we've seen a good rally. Again, I'm telling my producers to, number one, sell a little bit into this rally. You want to be selling when everybody wants your commodity. But at the same time, also look at some put options, because the put options have become a lot cheaper on the rally. So take advantage of it. This is time for action here with these prices.
Can you give us insight of the world agricultural supply and demand estimate report on this Friday? Otherwise, do you have any concerns or questions?
No, I mean, I just, again, my concern is these rallies, especially with a 2 billion bushel plus carry out in corn. These rallies can last and end very quickly, especially a spring rally. I mean, how many markets have we seen, Caesar, where all of a sudden we get wet for a week, corn pops 40 cents, beans pop $1, then all of a sudden we're right back to those lows a week later because the market gets dry, the weather gets dry, and everybody's being able to be back in the field planting. These spring rallies can end very quickly. So we'll just have to see what develops here in the next couple of days. But yes, Friday's monthly, it's the May WASDE report. So that is expected to be maybe a little heavy on the market, especially if we go in as rallying as hard as we have here. I would be looking to protect the downside through that report on Friday.
Yes, especially if the number will stay up.
Yes, that's correct.
What is your sources for bird flu in Iowa for the cattle herd?
Well, thankfully, as of right now, there's no confirmation of bird flu in the cattle herd. I think it's in 7 states. I think the closest that it got to is in Michigan, I believe, maybe Ohio. But as of right now, where we sit here Monday afternoon, I have not seen any confirmed bird flu in Iowa. So hopefully in the cattle herd, and hopefully we can keep it that way because the market is ultra sensitive to any type of news out there. And it's just simply from the absolute unknown, how that will affect the consumer. And the market does not like uncertainty and unknown, and typically will always lead to lower futures prices.
Keep our fingers crossed for it right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have any final thoughts about these commodity prices, bird flu, planting season?
I would just say, I go back to what I've kind of said a couple times here, Cesar. I think, when you have this type of carry out in corn, any 35 to 40 cent rally, you need to be looking at either selling a little bit of cash, rewarding the rally, or definitely buying some put options to protect the downside, because With a 2 billion bushel carryout, especially in the spring, these rallies can be very violent and very quick. So we are being proactive here on selling a little cash, as well as buying put options on this rally in case this thing does flutter out and reverse. It would not be surprise me. We've been up 4 to 5 days consecutively in corn and beans. Going into tomorrow is Tuesday. It certainly wouldn't surprise me if we see a turnaround Tuesday tomorrow.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Cesar.
This is your agricultural commodity analysis on back roads of Illinois with Jeff French from American Ag in Wiota, Iowa. We were coming. Thanks for Chad Hart from Iowa State University Extension and Jeff French from American Ag in Northwest Iowa. Remember that you can listen to this show on YouTube and Amazon whenever that you get your podcast. Thanks to listen on today's show for Back Roads of Illinois. I am Cesar Delgado.